titled this like Panthers intervention kind of thing, because like it seems like it's almost just like, yeah, it's a continuation from last year into this year, and the losses have been close, but the close ones hurt, I think, more than blowouts. And we're just trying to find people to blame, and now we're seeing tweets from Jason La Canfora about the Panthers maybe shipping Christian McCaffrey. Like, where are you at right now with this squad? I know you're a tape head, and I know you break it all down. Like, are you seeing things, non-tape heads like myself are seeing that give you some hope, or like, how are you feeling about this team?
I'm definitely not optimistic. I'm not overly pessimistic just because it's so early and like I see the tape, but I'm still a fan at the same time. So it's hard to keep that balance, but I try to look at both sides as much as possible. Um, at just at face value, the offense is bad. Like this is historically bad. Like the least amount of plays per game. We're on pace for the least amount of plays in NFL history. Matt Rule keeps talking about third down. A lot of people are criticizing about that, but that's right. If you're not converting on third down, you don't get a fresh set of downs. And if you don't get fresh set of downs, you get less plays in the game. So it's like a trickle down effect, obviously, there. And you can attribute the problems on third down to not being good on first and second. From what I see on film, the O-line, they've been overall have been great. It's just on the gotta have it plays like third down or like red zone. That's when the breakdown comes. When defenses get a little bit more tricky on third down, when they try to mix up a blitzes, you may get a mental error from Icky, or Moten may get beat just slightly a little bit, or somebody gives up a bull rush or a missed block there or a missed pass there. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. I don't think any problem is. I mean, Baker Mayfield obviously is a problem. Let's just be clear, but if you want to be, I guess, optimistic, he's still only been here, what, a month and a half? I mean, he came before training camp. They've seen before that it's in a new system, I guess in 2020 it took him about 6 or 7 games for the offense to really click. And I think 2020 was in one of his best career years. So I've told myself personally, I'm going to have about 6 games of patience with him. We're getting close to that right now. And I really haven't seen a lot of optimistic view from the performance perspective, but the opportunities are there. And that kind of is the only thing that gives me hope. But it's like I said, it's more so of a death by 1,000 paper cuts. My view for this game is I'm a little nervous, mainly because I don't think our defense is going to be able to do the Herculean effort that they normally do to keep this close for the 3 quarters that they normally do. They may only keep it close for 2 quarters this time around. So the offense needs to do something to be able to bring their fair share to the table.
No, 100%. Like, we saw what the Niners did to the Rams on Monday, and with Debo Samuel, that like, Debo is like what I would love how the Panthers could use like DJ or Laviska Shenault if his hamstring wasn't bumped up. Like they rush hard. I remember the last time they played the Panthers, it was like 41 to something. Like they just ran down our throats, and our team the defensive line feels smaller than it was then. And they're quick and all that, but they can get bull rush. We saw that against the Cowboys last year, and I think that's going to be tough. And George Kittle didn't do much on Monday. Maybe he comes alive against our secondary, missing Jeremy Chin now, who's kind of that unicorn out there. And the offense, like you said, they got to try to extend drives. Like when they do, it feels like we won the lottery. Just got to give it's crazy. It's like and to give the defense a rest, because they're going to break down. Like like you said, maybe after 2 quarters they're going to break down instead of maybe in the 4th or so like they did against the Cardinals. It just breaks. And I heard Julian Council talk about the NFL didn't do us any favors. They made this a late game. It's not even a 1 o'clock game, and so that home field advantage, home state advantage isn't going to help. But but the NFL's drunk this year. Like I know you're into sports betting. I'm getting into it. It was just legalized here.
Oh, nice.
Ontario. Yeah, it's crazy. Oh my God, I'm winning more money on baseball than I am NFL, because the NFL is just stupid. Like the Colts beating the Chiefs. Like something inside of me, like 5% of me thinks the Panthers are going to win somehow. Like some stupid way, they're like something's going to happen.
Look, I'm not going to guarantee a win, but from a betting perspective and just whatever football, it's a week. I always preach it's a week-to-week league. People want to be doom and gloom. It's a week-to-week league. Things can change quick. I just think about back then how low, I guess the mental standpoint of the fan base was, and then Cam came, and then things turned around. We were thinking playoffs, And then just that quick after 3 or 4 games, we're back to, oh yeah, it's just business as usual. So things can change. You never know. Like I said, it's a week-to-week league. You can't really assume anything's going to happen. I mean, the 49ers, their defense is legit. I mean, there's no way to put about it. I've been watching film more so on them versus the Broncos than
Mm,
versus the Rams, just because Shanahan kind of owns McVay. He kind of
mm,
has since day one. They're division rivals, so like the familiarity is there to the point that the performance just in a microscope is kind of hard to evaluate from everything. I've been looking at the Broncos game because the Broncos did a lot of things to neutralize their offense as well. It was what 11-10, and the Broncos actually won. And the
yeah.
Broncos offense averages less points per game than the
Yeah.
Panthers. Even taking out the if you take out the defensive touchdowns in this, I think they average the same amount, 16 points per game, because
Mm,
they have a safety, and I think obviously with our 2 touchdowns, they've both only scored 64 points in 2 games. So I tried to watch that, but from a betting perspective, if you like the analytics, the Football Power Index on ESPN gives us a 48.5% win probability.
mm,
Obviously, the 49ers have a 50% win probability, but that
mm,
the spread on the game is a whole touchdown. And like there's
mm.
these calculators out there that if you put those numbers into a calculator, the win probability, I mean, excuse me, a touchdown favorite should have a win probability of like 75%. So
Mm.
something's a little off there. Like they may not
Right.
win, but them losing by a touchdown, it could be something that if you're a betting man, you may, I mean, putting money on the Panthers, I never try to bet on my own team just because
Yeah,
losing
it gets
money and your team losing makes you
oh,
extra
it's the
salty.
worst. And especially
But
if you follow him all off season, you're just like,
yeah,
oh yeah, Cashman is doing great in training camp. He's definitely going to score in game one. He's definitely going to score.
yeah,
Oh yeah. Oh, Deontay Foreman, this big running back acquisition, he's 100% on the goal line. He's scoring, and then I just completely got shut out, and I'm still getting shut out. But
yeah.
yeah,
I,
are you an
yeah, I
accountant
mean,
by day? Like you're crunching numbers?
yeah,
You an accountant
yeah.
by, is that your job?
I'm accountant. I used to be in tax. I still do some tax on the side, but I work in venture capital now, doing accounting now. So
Jeez. Okay,
um,
yeah, because you're crunching numbers. I was like, whoa. It's just like, okay, I see what you're
there's
doing. You're putting into the math into this. I'm half Korean, so I crunch numbers just naturally. But
yeah.
I hear them like you kind of sound like some of my uncles and my cousins right now. I was like, what's going on? But
Trying to find any edge, man. The Vegas usually knows something, and I think they use recency bias because everybody was watching our game because it was a 4 o'clock slot. So everybody saw us lay an egg. And then everybody was watching the Monday night game with San Francisco going crazy. So they're just like, hey, let's put
mm,
this money and make this spread as big as possible. But it may be a little bit closer than the experts think. I mean, the Vegas tries to get into the minds of the public, and
mm,
they say there's a reason why there's big shiny hotels in Vegas because they make money when everybody thinks things are going to go one way and it ends up going the other.
100%.
So with that in mind, I, I mean, I'm not saying they're going to win, but a touchdown favorite is a lot in the NFL. I mean, there's been a lot of, I think there's been an uptick of games that ended in a field goal at one point ever since
Mhm.
like they moved the extra point back. Things get a little bit hairy now. So, and Jimmy G's not been great.
Yes,
So,
he's due.
I,
He's due for a mistake. And Frankie Luvu's balling out of control. He's like Troy Polamalu 2.0. Like,
dude, his motor is crazy. I mean, obviously he's not Luke Kuechly, but the intensity, the motor, like the effort, it
mhm.
screams 59 in your face. Like it's hard to deny that. And for him to go to undrafted, then getting like cut by what the Jets, and then coming here and now going from a special teams ace to like our best linebacker, like
Crazy.
the trajectory is amazing. What I've seen from him, and we've got him for a pretty cheap deal. I mean, we have him for another year after this one, so that kind of, regardless of who's the coach, those kind of things that he brings to the table is something that can transcend any team. Like any coach is going to like a player that plays that hard and is going to bring it every time, no matter what the score is. So
Yeah.
I
And he
love
built
Frankie
that
Love.
identity.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, he's the brand
It's
for
crazy, right? Because like you said,
yeah,
he was undrafted. He was just like a. I remember when they picked him up from the Jets. He was like, oh, it's just like a mad pick. Like, oh, okay, he's just like a special teams guy. And then he's on the same field with guys like Brian Burns, and Jeremy Chin, and highly drafted prospects. And then here's this guy, and he's taken over. And I said it in one of my last videos, like he's on the same field as Jack Thompson. I know he's older, but I feel like Luke was making more splash plays and building the identity as even as more than Shaq, who
mhm,
I appreciate what he's done for the team, but like, what's going on? Like, Luvu's, he's just been comparing him to Kuechly. I don't know what he's like in the film room, but he feels more athletic. Like he's more fluid, he's faster, more twitchy, and but
yeah.
like you said, like the intensity that he brings is very 59.
He's got the juice, man. He's got the juice. As far as like just overall, obviously Luke Kuechly's unmatched. He's one of the smartest guys off the field, just in general. He went to Boston College. I
Yeah,
mean, but like on the field, obviously he can like to call the play. He's known for calling the plays out. I think that's the next step for Luvu, getting a little bit better on play recognition. But his anticipation and his reaction is half the reason why he makes so many plays, because he just gets there, but he beats guys to the spot. And, you know, it's hard to block somebody that is side by side with you if they're running past you, if you're an offensive lineman. If you're head up with them, you play around with them. I always say, don't be a block magnet. You don't have to get blocked. You can get off blocks, you can avoid blocks and stuff like that. And he's good at that, you know. And so that's going to be something that's going to be needed this Sunday, especially against a team that kind of has a pretty sophisticated running game like the 49ers. That's kind of my biggest concern for the defense. Granted, they've been better, but like certain teams that are committed to the run and like they have their own style of running the ball and they use different angles and misdirection, it can be a little bit scary. And like you said, without Jeremy Chin for sure, and potentially without Xavier Woods, they said he's day to day.
Right.
It could be really interesting. I have confidence and a little bit of confidence in Justin Burris because he started for us before. But losing both of your safeties is never ideal. Like you said, Kittle, he hasn't had a great season yet. They've been using him more as a blocker. But if it's about matchups in the NFL, if we have two backup safeties, this could be the week that Kittle could really end up hurting you.
100%. Now, it's so easy to give flowers to the defense, but let's focus on what everyone's pissed off about is this offense. Baker, you know, he caught the ear of Stephen A saying, you know, it's the Bible Belt. You don't say things like the way you're talking right now. That was the best thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm probably going to start this episode with just that monologue from Stephen A. I've also been to Salisbury. I love Salisbury. But this offense and Baker, like, I was optimistic only because I just wanted someone else besides Sam just to change it out, because Sam he kind of has this cloud over his head his whole career. At least Baker, we've seen him succeed. Like, how are you seeing what he's producing on the field? That he'll even admit he's not doing great right now.
Well, he doesn't seem comfortable at all. Now, whether that's something that can't be cured as far as him being comfortable in the pocket, or he just doesn't really fully understand what's going on with the offense, or he hasn't completely grasped it. He's not trusting the protection. The O-line's been pretty solid overall. Like I said, on certain gotta have it downs, they may have a mental blur, but he's improved. Pat Elflein has really shown me a lot at center. Brady Christensen has been holding it down, and Austin Corbett, he kind of had me a little bit down in preseason the way he was playing, but he's been almost lights out. Probably our best offensive lineman thus far.
And the Rams are missing him too.
Exactly.
Right.
And so the offensive line for years past, it's been the easy cop out for us to blame. But this year, it's not really it. So the microscope is really on the quarterback. Baker is not really trusting him sometimes. He's scrambling out of the pocket when he doesn't have to. He's airmailing some passes because his feet aren't comfortable because he's not trusting the protection there. And then obviously we know the batted passes are they're annoying. It's almost to the point where like you're cringing a little bit until the ball gets past the line of scrimmage. Every time we drop back the pass, you almost have that bad feeling that the ball's going to get tipped by somebody. And then when that ball flutters in the NFL, these guys are fast and athletic. They're coming up with those plays most of the time. We've been fortunate that maybe one or two have been picks this year after the 11, but it's tough. And I know there's been a lot of people got mad because Matt Rule called out the receivers on the separation, but I honestly thought he had a point looking at the film. Now, there's different ways. Everybody knows zone and man coverage. Zone, which is what obviously a lot of the other teams played. Browns played it. The Cardinals played it this week. It's easy to run around and find spots in the zone. You need to be on the same page, obviously, but finding areas and being able to run free is different. The Saints, what they do, they get in your face, they challenge you, they play man coverage, they press man. You have to be able to be precise in your routes. And our guys really aren't precise in their routes. They don't separate that well. They have the athleticism to be able to make highlight plays and stuff. So Baker probably should just throw it up sometimes and give these guys a chance when they're going deep. But them being able to separate and get off routes, they're not like Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, who's good at those little nuances. They're more athletic. And you can be an effective receiver with just your athleticism and stuff like that. I mean, Steve Smith wasn't a super precise route runner, but what he did, he was able to catch the ball on contested balls, even though he was small. He was able to break tackles, and he was just the intensity he played with. He just knew how to make plays. So it's not impossible, but you'll see it this week. The 49ers, they play some man coverage at times on third down. They don't blitz as much. So it'll definitely be a test. That's the one thing that also makes me nervous is we have to be able to compete, and the sense of urgency has to be there for everybody. Like, everybody has to help Baker out to a certain point also, but he has to do his job, deliver the ball when the opportunities are there, be confident in what he's seeing. Like, don't second guess. And that's a lot about what's been going on for him.
Yeah, and like I'm not a QB coach or anything like that, but yeah, like when I watch Baker play, I get nervous. Like his feet just don't stop moving. I don't know how you can get a good base up, transfer power if your feet aren't locked into the ground, not facing your target, and like that sense of urgency. You said it, you banged on the head. Like I feel like on this offense, besides the O line, I feel like the only player out there that's playing with a sense of urgency, just from looking at it, I feel like Ian Thomas is playing with a lot of urgency. I don't know why. Maybe he got paid. Christian McCaffrey's obviously being normal Christian McCaffrey, but yeah, like you said, the receivers, their routes aren't crisp. And it just feels like, I don't know, there's the juice isn't flowing. Is it, I don't know, is it a chicken and egg thing? Like the confidence in the QB and the QB's confidence in them is kind of shook right now. But is there something on the offense, somebody on the offense that you think could maybe make a dent this week? Like Laviska seems like he's dealing with a hammy thing. I thought he could be, a nice little wrinkle in the offensive plan. But, is there someone else on the team that you think, give this guy a shot and they could maybe be a mismatch? We're talking about mismatches, like, up against the Niners.
I mean, it seems redundant and people hate it, but it's got to be your big joker, Christian McCaffrey. Like he's a top 3 unstoppable weapon in the NFL. Like you either have to put a defensive back on him, which is unheard of because he's a running back, or you have to put 2 linebackers on him. And if you do that, somebody else has to open it up as far as coverage behind them, because if they're blitzing 4, you have 2 guys on him. There's only 5 men in coverage. You probably have 5 eligible receivers. Just doing the math, somebody should be one-on-one and somebody should be able to win. So whenever you have somebody on your offense that people have to account for on every play, that can be, like I said, that big joker that can turn things around. Now, I haven't been a big fan of how McAdoo has been using Christian, especially in the passing game, because to protect him, I think the best way to do it is to give him more passes in space and just, instead of just running screens, let him run some routes. We saw him catch that touchdown down the middle of the field. Do more of that. Norv Turner was he kind of overused Christian, obviously, but you can see the fact that Norv spread the ball around. So even though Christian was getting the majority of the numbers, everybody else was eating as well. DJ Moore was eating, whether it's catches or catching little option passes in the backfield, the screens in the backfield. Give these guys the ball. Don't make them run precise route. Like I said, you can be an effective receiver without being able to run a precise route. Just get the ball in some of these guys' hands. We talked about Deebo Samuel. They just he's not the most precise route runner either, but they get the ball in his hands and you can see him break tackles, make explosive plays. Like just get these guys the ball in space.
Yeah, I got to take him to school.
Hi. What's up, man?
Aaron in Georgia. You've got my eye shaved. Here's Aaron. Where in Georgia? Are you in Atlanta?
Yeah, I'm in Atlanta.
Oh, nice. There's Reese.
That's a sweet hoodie.
Oh, I know. Roots. It's nice. They're actually created by draft dodgers, American draft dodgers.
Oh, yeah?
Quick, maybe prediction on the game, a score or something like that?
I can't. It's hard for me to pick the Panthers to win.
Yeah.
But I'll go 23-17. I think it'll be a 6-point game. I think they get us by a full touchdown, but I still think that 7-point spread in Vegas is a little bit misleading. I think it'll be a little bit closer.
Yeah, I would say something similar. Maybe I don't think the Panthers are going to score much, but yeah, I think I follow that. I think something like a 24 to, I don't know, maybe something a late garbage time touchdown, 24-18 type situation.
Yeah.
My kid's disturbed by the Panthers. See what it's doing to my family? He's getting all upset about the Panthers. They're stressing him out. I appreciate you so much. Next time, maybe I'll do this at nighttime when he's sleeping.
No worries. We can do it on my channel too, so it doesn't matter.